guys, this is WhisperSister. I wanted to make a video today about kind of a specific topic that's been on my mind lately, and that is the rock bottom experience. That experience of reaching rock bottom and how that can be a catalyst for making changes in your life, and more importantly, why we often need to get to that point before we make changes, and I guess how, if it's possible, to avoid having to get to that point before we make changes. Lately, I've been thinking back a lot to the time in my life when I was making videos regularly, and the things that I went through back then, and it was a very difficult time in my life. For those who maybe didn't, weren't listening back then, I'll sum it up. I was in a relationship for 8 years. And it wasn't a horrible relationship, but it was probably not the right relationship for me. I wasn't really happy or fulfilled, and more importantly, I had to change a lot. I changed a lot for it. I got together with my ex when I was 20 or so, and we were just really different people, totally different way of seeing the world, and very different personalities. And when I started to discover that after we'd gotten together, I was unable to accept that and let that be, and let go of the relationship. I was I really didn't want to be alone, and also I thought that every difference that I discovered was some sort of fault of mine. I thought that all the ways that I was different from my ex were things that were wrong with me, so I tried to change myself to be more like him, or more acceptable in his eyes, and it led to a very drastic change. By the end of it, I was on Prozac for 6 years, and just living a life that was really not the life that I wanted to be living. I would find myself thinking back to, who I was before I got together with him, and wondering where that person went, and slowly that dawned on me, actually largely because of these videos. When I was making the videos back then, those were some of the first times that I heard myself saying things like, I used to play guitar, but I don't anymore, or I always thought that I would, be doing X, Y, Z, or have this kind of, I don't know, I just started to realize that there were things that were really important to me that I had pushed aside, and they all kind of came floating back to the surface through making these videos. And I think maybe I'm hoping that might happen again, because I feel like I haven't been listening to myself very much lately, and there's a lot that I think I'm ignoring or just not bothering to look at. So I guess I'm going to try and use these videos to do that. But anyways, back to the point of this video. That whole time in my life was definitely a rock bottom experience. That was reaching a point of total desperation realizing that my life had really gotten off track from what I ever wanted it to be or thought it would be. And when I reached that really low point, it was really hard, obviously, and painful, but it also was extremely liberating because, you know, from that point I could start to rebuild, and having nothing left to lose, really. I think I was a lot more bold in the decisions that I made, and also just really motivated to make changes. One of the most obvious physical changes was, that's kind of what I keep thinking back to, is I was, partly because of the medication and partly just because of my lifestyle, I was about 100 pounds overweight, or 100 pounds heavier than I am now anyway. And that was one thing that just reached a critical point where I was like, something's got to change here. I can't keep going on like this, because I absolutely hated myself, and it was really limiting me in everything I did, and I just wasn't prepared to live that way anymore. And so, amongst other things, when I made all these changes in my life, I started running regularly, and I hated it at first, but very quickly I came to love it, and it was a huge help in, I don't know, maintaining some shred of sanity as I went off the meds and had to deal with my emotions again for the first time in years, and was just going through all kinds of really intense experiences and pretty substantial changes. It became something that I clung to and relied on, and it really was just such an amazing thing in my life. And so yeah, I lost a bunch of weight, but more than that, it just mentally and psychologically, it was really helpful. And since then, I guess since my social life kind of started to become bigger and a bigger part of my life, and playing music, playing shows, and just being out most nights, because I usually would run in the evenings, it just slowly kind of tapered off, and now I hardly ever run. I've started again, but and I'd like to make it a regular part of my life again, but for the last year or two, I don't even remember how long it's been since I was running regularly. I still do every once in a while, but it's very sporadic. Like once every couple months I'll go for a run. And so I was thinking about it today, and I was thinking, now it doesn't, I'm not at that critical point where, I have no choice but to make a change. My weight is relatively steady. I do get other exercise, but and my mental health is, pretty stable, even though it's not what I'd like it to be. But just in general, I've been feeling for a while like, yeah, things are kind of going in the wrong direction, but it's not at that point, that breaking point yet, It's quite a ways away from that. And so I find myself not doing the things that I know are good for me, because I don't have to. It's almost like I can get away with it, so I won't do it until I have no choice. And I'd really like to try and change that if I can, because it's frustrating. The running is just a small example, but when I look at my progression obsession with music. It's definitely been something that I've struggled with. It's like as long as I can get away with not doing something, I won't until I absolutely have to. And I'd rather not reach the point. I'd rather not wait until I reach the point of utter devastation again. And not only that, it's like I can feel the time sort of ticking by, and I know that I'm not making the most of it anymore. Sometimes I talk to people about the things that I went through and did back then, and they say, it must have taken a lot of courage and strength to, go off medication and leave the relationship and whatever, all those things that I did. And I think, yeah, it did. I was a pretty strong person back then, whether I knew it or not. And I did, do things that I was afraid of, and I did have a fair amount of courage, but I don't feel like I do right now. I feel like I've gotten complacent, and I'm not that person who was, really motivated to make changes and take action. And I'd like to be, because I know that I have it in me. I'm not doing it. But yeah, it seems like, as whatever my good intentions are, I just watch myself just kind of coasting and pushing my luck and getting away with kind of half-assing a lot of things really in my life. It's like I reached a point where everything was fucked up and I had to change, and so I did. And then once things started to get a little more comfortable, I just got lazy and started to take it easy. I've been I'm gonna try not to judge myself too much here, or be too hard on myself. I'm just observing what happened. Initially I got into just making new friends and playing shows and jams and parties, and I kind of went a little far in the other direction after living for 10 years or so with very little social life or excitement or fun in my life. I kind of just got a little bit reckless and just all I wanted to do was have fun all the time. But now, like, where music is concerned, I realize that I'm not really accomplishing the things that I want to accomplish. And meanwhile, I have a lot of friends who are musicians, and they are doing this, like, they're doing it. They're not just talking about it, and I'm pretty much just talking about it at this point. So I've started to ask myself these questions, like, why? What's it going to take for me to actually start doing, like, putting my money where my mouth is and actually doing the things that deep down I know I'm capable of doing, and everyone else is saying, like, you can do this, you just have to do it. But you have to do it, like, no one can do it for you, and, talking about it without doing it is, some of my friends are getting kind of frustrated with me, so, and there's, like, my physical health is another thing. It's like, right now it's not in a crisis state, so I kind of ignore it, but I could be a lot healthier. I could be running, I could be eating better. I've been smoking cigarettes for the last year or so, which is crazy. I smoked when I was younger, and then I quit for like 8 years, and I never planned to ever smoke again. And it was just a matter of, being out one night and someone offering me a drag of their cigarette, and it wasn't even like I wanted it. It was just, again, that attitude of, like, rebellion and just, like, total recklessness. I was just like, yeah, sure, what's the worst that could happen? I used to do this, like, anyway. Part of that is just that nicotine is extremely addictive, but yeah, sure enough, within, however long it took, at this point now, I'm just like a straight up smoker, buying cigarettes, have been for like a year, and I wonder if it's some sort of self-sabotage on a subconscious level, because it's really crippling my voice. Other people can't tell, people who hear me for the first time. I've learned to work around it, so it still sounds fine, but it's not what it could be, and I know that. Every time I sing, I have to baby my voice and hold back and be careful, because it could crack, or I could start coughing, and even the notes are even sort of like wobbly. Sometimes I'm a little bit flat or something, and that's not something I've ever had to worry about. So, I step back and I look at all of this, and I'm like, how bad does it have to get before you do something about it? Whatever it might be. And, so yeah, I guess I just kind of wanted to think out loud a little bit about why I don't know, maybe it's a universal human condition, I can't speak for anyone else, but why I, push my luck so much, and why I wait until things are unbearable before I make a change. I think about all the time, because once you make those changes, like I remember with my ex, oh my god, I spent so long in denial and trying to justify and convince myself that I wanted to be in that relationship, or thinking about all the reasons why I couldn't possibly leave. A lot of my videos, I think I was making videos throughout that process, so a lot of that is in those older videos, but some of the things that I would think about were just the stupidest things. It was like, some of it was legitimate. It was like I didn't want to hurt him, and I felt like I'd made a commitment, and I didn't want to break it, and, we had this whole life together. We had a house and pets and, plans and a history, and all this time that we'd spent, and I felt like walking away from that would be a failure. But some of them were so silly. It was like, who's gonna scratch my back if I get an itchy back? Or like, I don't know, I used to go for walks sometimes around the neighborhood, and it was sort of like we lived in the suburbs, and so it was just like a neighborhood, and there was a few trees on the street, and some houses had some interesting trees or things in their yards, and I'd go for walks and think like I couldn't possibly leave this neighborhood because I like it, it's got these trees and it's home, and then now, like as soon as I left, or, a lot of it was obvious as soon as I left, but certainly now looking back, I think, oh my god, like, the amount of things that I've experienced and life that I've lived since then is unbelievable. I couldn't have imagined it at that point. And the street that I live on now has like way more trees and way cooler stuff. Like it's silly to think that, to compare them now, I would definitely choose what I have now over what I thought I was losing back then. And so I try to think about that and apply it to my life now, because right now I feel like I'm facing a similar crossroads. It's like, I don't know, I've got all these different options or thoughts about what I'm going to do for the winter and beyond, and I feel like I've definitely become attached again to some things in my life, my house being one of them. I have a nice place, and it's in a good location, and there's a lot going for it, but it's like a fairly large basement suite that I'm living in by myself and paying, more rent than I would if I was to either downsize to a smaller place or, move into a house with roommates or something. And once again, I find myself thinking about all the ways that I'm attached to my current situation and the things, basically being afraid of change, I guess, if you want to just boil it down to its essence. It's like I'm afraid of change, so I'm clinging on to what I have, but I feel like deep down, change is probably exactly what I need, because things have gotten stale, and like I said, it's like nothing's horribly wrong, but something's a little wrong. So I wonder, I guess for me it's like, if I can look back on those other experiences and just remember how much better off I was once I faced that fear of making the change and jumped into it. Maybe that can provide the reassurance that I need to make changes now. Because I guess it all does come back down to fear. Fear of the unknown, uncertainty. Because I guess as humans we're hardwired to see that as a threat and to try to create some sense of security, to ward off that vague danger of the unknown. And I guess it's a matter of remembering that the unknown can often be, way better than what you have, or just, it can be great, it can be unimaginable. It is unimaginable, that's the point, and, yeah, as much as I fear that, I think I also thrive on it. I remember how alive I felt when everything was completely out of control. I guess it worries me a little bit that that's the case, because of course you want to have that security and that something you can rely on, but I mean that's really an illusion when you really get down to it, because things can change anyway, whether you like it or not. So I think what I was thinking about tonight, why I wanted to make this video, is okay, so this is the point of the video. So I know I kind of ramble and go on tangents and stuff, but anyway, the basic question is, how do you retrain your mind, or retrain yourself to, not just be satisfied with things being okay and manageable, but how do you actually start to try and make things really optimal? It's like saying that healthcare is actually, sickness care, like not just stopping at not being sick, but actually being like in optimal health. And I guess part of it is whether or not you believe that that's possible. And I'm not sure that I do. I guess like having limited expectations of what's possible. Yeah, that's probably a big part of it. I realize is that in my life, I've pretty much always, I've trained myself, or I was trained to, be realistic in my expectations, and eventually just pretty much assume that whatever I did want was impossible. Sorry. Be that, like, I've seen that play out with the music thing. I've seen it play out with relationships, like romantic relationships. Just in general, I've become satisfied with mediocrity because I'm afraid to expect excellence, or you know what I mean. And I think that's a big part of it. You learn how to lower your expectations to avoid being disappointed. I guess that's one of the things that I've noticed through watching some of my friends, and the goals that they have and the things that they envision for themselves are things that I would think are impossible, things that I wouldn't allow myself to hope for or dream of or work towards. But they do it, and there's no difference between them and me other than the fact that they go for it and they make it happen, or they work for it. And I guess another part of it is fear of failure. I watched a video today about that, and it's nothing new that I haven't. It's nothing new, but it's just the idea that, like, if you don't try, if you don't do something, or if you sort of half-ass something, and then it turns out not to work, or people don't like it, or whatever, you can always fall back on saying, well, I could have done better, but I didn't really try. Whereas if you actually try your hardest and then it still sucks, then that's gonna hurt a lot more. So this video, actually, maybe I'll link it in the description, because it's I think I've mentioned this guy before in my older videos, but it's this guy named Halcyon. His channel is called Hug Nation, I think. I don't know if that's the name of the channel, but the videos are that's his thing. And yeah, he was talking about self-sabotaging, yeah. And he said to reframe it so that you realize that failures are not failures. Like failures are actually successes, because it means that you're doing it. Like you're not just talking about it, but you're actually acting on these things, and that everyone fails. Like of course you're gonna fail, but the fear of failure is worse than the actual failure. I'm starting to really ramble here, guys. I'm sorry. It's like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm not really used to making these videos anymore. What was I talking about? Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to. It's like I'm watching myself squander opportunities, and just back away from challenges. I've realized that I no longer see challenge as an exciting thing right now. I see it as an overwhelming thing, and something that I avoid. And that's how I was that's what had me going on Prozac and staying in a relationship for way too long, and staying in a job I didn't like, and I made some really difficult changes at one point, and now I feel like I'm just wasting all of that momentum by letting fear beat me right at this stage, and it's frustrating. I'm frustrated with myself, but that just leads to more kind of self-recrimination, and that doesn't really help matters. So I'm trying to approach it from a more positive angle and just see if I can kind of dissect it and figure out what it is that makes me wait until, things are just so bad that I have to make a change. And if there's a way to change some of those habits so that I can actually, strive for excellence, because I know deep down, and I don't mean to sound conceited, but I've always known that, I've always had these dreams. I've always had the drive and the desire to be a musician, really, and now it's all right there in front of me. It's like, it's all right there, and I'm just not doing it. I keep talking about it and wait until I'm ready, wait until I have more money, or wait until I lose another 10 pounds, or, write another 5 songs, or, I don't know, find a band, none of these things are, it's not going to go any further if I don't start actually doing it, actually working on it. And then, just I don't know, I don't expect perfection, and I know that, I don't know. I also, I had a friend yesterday say something to me that kind of shifted my perspective a little bit, or made me realize that I need to shift my perspective, because I was talking to her about all these different options that I have right now, and these decisions that I have to make in terms of whether I'm going to, go work in Edmonton, or give up my place, or whatever. And she said, it sounds like it's pretty much win-win. You can't make a wrong decision, because whatever ends up happening, you'll make the best of it. You'll take it, and you'll make it work, and you'll make it a positive thing. And I realize that she's right. As much as I worry about making mistakes, it's like I've seen how really, when push comes to shove, if I need to address something, or I need to do something, I will. So that was kind of cool. But again, it'd be nice to not be constantly coming from a place of, crisis before I actually make a change, or take an action. I guess it's a decision that I just have to make. Am I going to commit to something or not? And then start taking action. I do know that, when it comes to motivation, you often wait for that inspiration or motivation to do something before we do it. But it actually works the other way around. Once you start taking little steps, you start building momentum, and you start building motivation. So, I don't know. This video is not pointless, because it's good to be thinking about this stuff again and taking the time to try and put it into words. And hopefully, if I do this more often, then I'll start to make more sense and learn something from it. Sometimes it helps to hear yourself say it out loud. I think that's what counseling is for a lot of the time, which is another thing I haven't been doing for a while. So pretty much I've just been letting myself off the hook, and I want to stop that. I want to take responsibility for my life. So, anyways, I'm gonna end this now, and hopefully you enjoyed this, or at least it put you to sleep. And thank you for your comments on my last video. It's nice to see that a lot of the people who were around from the very beginning are still out there and still listening. And some people have shared with me what those early videos meant nice to know I'm not the only one who kind of misses those early days of whispering. And, I hope that whoever might hear these videos now, I hope they're still relevant and useful, or at the very least relaxing. Yeah. So I think I'm going to say goodnight, and I'll just throw this up on there, and if it's too much rambling, if it's too, if it jumps around too much or whatever, then, I don't know. Sorry. But, yeah, I'll probably make a video again soon, because, I've got a lot on my mind these days, and not really, a whole lot of opportunity to get it out of my mind. And my head, my brain has been frickin' throbbing with, I've just been thinking way too much, and, you get into those loops where you realize that you've thought something through completely already, and you just keep thinking and thinking anyway, and you just, I've thought of this from every angle, and at this point there's no more thinking. It's just a matter of doing something and seeing how it goes, and that's kind of where I'm at. So I think I need to, just roll the dice and see what happens, and maybe just shake things up a little bit, because things have definitely gotten very repetitive and